Welcome to Wales Today. Our headlines tonight. We speak to a Cardiff student who was sexually assaulted. He received help from an online support system. Tonight, the call for it to be rolled out to all universities.
They need to make sure that those students are safe, and they have a responsibility there to make sure that not only do these incidences not occur, but when they do, that there's proper reporting systems involved and proper ways to go about making sure that those survivors are offered support.
Also tonight, have you experienced delayed and overcrowded trains? The warning: it could be several years before some passengers see real change to their services.
More comfortable trains, more customer-friendly trains.
More carriages at rush hour. Commuter time is a nightmare.
Proposed cuts to North Wales Fire Service. Jobs and one of the two full-time fire engines could both go. Meghan Markle is expected to wear a Welsh gold wedding ring, but panning for the precious metal in a Gwynedd River could be made illegal.
And the soul searching begins at Swansea City after relegation to the Championship. So, what's next for the club?
Good evening. It's an online system which allows students to report incidents of abuse and violence anonymously if they choose. Tonight, there's a call for it to be adopted by universities across Wales. Since the system was launched at Cardiff University in October, there have been more than 100 reported incidents, including 30 allegations of rape. Here's our education correspondent, Bethan Lewis.
18 years old and in a new country to study. This first-year undergraduate had been enjoying a night out drinking with friends in Cardiff. But when he walked home on his own in the early hours, a man approached him offering to share his umbrella so he could shelter from the rain. His words have been revoiced.
After like 2 minutes of being with him, I blacked out. I don't remember how and where I got where I was. And the next thing I remember after meeting him was him trying to get into, try to assault me. And then all of a sudden another man shows up because we were in this private compound. I feel like he was on drugs because he seemed kind of like all over the place, and then he asked me to pay him money.
He managed to get away and get back to his shared accommodation. His friend phoned the police, but the student decided not to pursue the matter.
I hadn't told my parents about this yet because they've sent me here from a foreign country. It would just break their heart, so I felt like if I had to undergo an investigation, I would probably have to tell them about it before I do anything, so I just decided not to do it.
With the help of a member of staff, the incident was reported on Cardiff University's new online system, where students can register any experiences of abuse or violence.
We would talk through with them what's happened, how it's impacted on them, and then look at practical support options. So that might be support with their housing and finances. It might be that actually they would like some support with applying for extenuating circumstances so that their school know that what's happened is going to impact on their study. Also, they might want to access counselling. We can support them with doing that.
There are over 30,000 students at Cardiff University, and from October last year to the end of April, 101 students used the system. Some reported more than one experience of abuse. Some were recent, some in the past. 43 incidents of abuse within relationships were disclosed, over 30 of rape and 40 sexual assaults. There were also incidents of stalking, harassment and hate crime. Student representatives say they'd like to see similar systems being rolled out at other universities.
Universities have a responsibility. They're welcoming loads and loads and loads of students from all across the world onto their campuses. They need to make sure that those students are safe, and they have a responsibility there to make sure that not only do these incidences not occur, but when they do, that there's proper reporting systems involved and proper ways to go about making sure that those survivors are offered support.
As well as an offer of counselling, this student was given a letter explaining to his tutors that his work could be affected. The university, he says, has been completely supportive.
I've known people who've experienced the same thing, but they've kept it to themselves, and then that doesn't help because your thoughts grow, you blame yourself for the situation, you become ashamed, and I didn't want that to happen.
Talking is a help for this student to get over a terrible experience, and he says the university's had an important role in helping him to move on.
Bethan, what do these figures tell us about some of the issues experienced by students?
Well, Lucy, at Cardiff University, they've been pretty surprised at how many students have used this online tool to disclose experiences of abuse or violence, and how many students too have been willing to give details and not just report anonymously, because they can do that too. Now, it doesn't give a comprehensive picture. What it does do is give some examples and a picture really of the sorts of issues some students have experienced, and a high proportion of the people who've used this online tool have reported allegations of abuse within relationships. Also, a pretty high number of sexual assaults and rapes. Now, some of those will have been reported to the police, some won't. Now, at Cardiff University, as we've heard, there are over 30,000 students, but if you assume that many people won't have used this sort of online tool to register incidents that have happened to them, it makes for a pretty unsettling picture, really.
But how will this new system help address the issues that students are experiencing?
Well, the idea is that students may feel more comfortable using this sort of online tool rather than phoning somebody to ask for help. Also, that the university has an overview then of the sorts of issues that its students has experienced, and they can therefore tailor support services to reflect that. Now, universities are in a unique position, really. They have an important role in the lives of tens of thousands of students, and a unique position in order to enable people to be able to speak out and also to offer help, whether that's emotional, practical, but also academic, of course, because they want students to be able to finish their courses and to fulfil their potential.
Bethan, thank you very much. Bethan Lewis. Substantial improvements to rail services across Wales could be 3 or 4 years away. That's according to the First Minister. His comments come as a new operator to replace Arriva Trains Wales for a new 15-year franchise will be announced within weeks. With more, here's our political editor, Nick Savini.
No ticket required for Cadwyn Jones as he opens the newly revamped train station at Bridgend. This wasn't the usual Monday morning scene greeting commuters. And there'll be even more lasting change on the way, as they'll soon be hopping onto trains run by a new operator taking over from Arriva Trains Wales for the next 15 years. The Welsh Government will announce the winner of the contest to run the services by the end of the month, but patience will be required.
It's going to take some time to procure the trains, to make sure that everything's in place. If we're looking to electrify, as we are, the valley lines, putting that structure in place, that's not going to happen overnight. But if people are asking me, by when will we start to see real changes? I'd say the beginning of the 2020s. That's when people, 3-4 years time, I think that's when people will start to see real change on the service, when everything begins to fit into place.
There are two bidders, the Hong Kong-based firm MTR, which specialises in tram networks, and Keolis Amy, which runs Docklands Light Railway. As well as taking on the Wales and Borders franchise, the new operator will also be responsible for a major upgrade of the rail network in and around Cardiff as part of the Metro scheme. So there'll be a huge amount of information about this new franchise over the coming weeks. But rail passengers won't get hung up on the technical details. They just want to know if there'll be more frequent services and better quality carriages. And a degree of expectation management from the First Minister today. A new company will take charge quickly. The big changes will take longer.
Well, as to be expected, I suppose. It's a big change. It's not ideal, but what can you do?
What do you want from the new operator?
More carriages at rush hour. Commuter time is a nightmare.
More trains at off-peak times, perhaps in the evening.
More comfortable trains, more customer-friendly trains.
The new operator will be given some breathing space to deal with overcrowding on commuter routes like these into Cardiff. But whether passengers are prepared to give them 3 to 4 years is another matter.
Police have confirmed there'll be no charges over the death of a 2-year-old girl who died when the car she was in rolled into a river in Cardigan. Kiara Moore was found in the River Tavy in March after being left in a car that was parked on a slipway. Merseyside police detectives have made 2 more arrests investigating the fatal stabbing of Fatah Wasami in Liverpool. The 20-year-old was killed in the early hours of Sunday, the 6th of May. A 33-year-old man and a 24-year-old woman from Toxteth were arrested on Saturday on suspicion of assisting an offender and have now been released under investigation. The First Minister backed the renaming of the second Severn crossing to become the Prince of Wales Bridge months before it was officially announced. A Freedom of Information request from BBC Wales also revealed Carwyn Jones offered to take part in the renaming ceremony. The UK government's announcement prompted an online petition which has reached 38,000 signatures. The Welsh Government has been asked to comment. Proposed cuts to the fire service across North Wales have been criticised by the Firefighters Union. Job losses or the removal of one of Wrexham's 2 full-time engines are among the options being considered. But a rise in council tax could also be used to make up any shortfall. Matthew Richards reports.
2 weeks ago, fire broke out at a plastics recycling factory at Sandycroft on Deeside. North Wales crews from as far away as Llanrwst were involved, and all could be affected as the Fire Authority considers ways to save £2 million. Among the most controversial suggestions is the removal of 1 full-time fire engine from Wrexham. When this was proposed before, there was major opposition, with protesters citing the large population, the prison and the major industrial estate as reasons to keep its existing appliances and crew. The Firefighters Union says people across North Wales could be at risk.
If you look at the detail of the report as it's being presented today, it's clear that actually each one of them has within it the potential to increase the response times. And what that means in practice is that from the time when somebody calls for an emergency response to the time when we arrive to be able to deal with that incident, and especially for subsequent appliances and resources to arrive, that response time potentially increases, and with that comes a potential increase in risk to the public and to the firefighters.
There is one option that could see cuts minimised. Local authorities might be asked to increase the amount of money they contribute to the fire service via council tax.
If we decide to make a total 100% levy increase, I'm afraid they will have to meet that levy, and that's one reason for going out for consultation.
The Firefighters Union says its members' main aim is to save lives and protect the public, but any further cuts will put pressure on a service that's already operating at full stretch. The proposals will go to the public before any final decision is made. Matthew Richards, BBC Wales Today, St Asaph.
You're watching Wales Today. Much more to come before 7.
Pearce has done it in the dying seconds of the night.
A statue to remember the man dubbed Newport Rocky will soon be unveiled. But should more of our sporting heroes be honoured in the same way?
And it's a beautiful evening, but some of us woke up to a frost this morning. So what's going on? And how long will the fine weather last? Join me later to find out.
GPs in Wales are to be insured against clinical negligence by the Welsh Government. At the moment, they have to insure themselves. The move comes after concerns that rising costs could drive doctors out of the profession. Caroline Evans reports.
All doctors need insurance against potential negligence claims. For those working in hospitals, the government already meets the cost. But for GP practices, it's different. They've had to find £6,000 to £10,000 per doctor out of their budgets. And according to the profession, it's putting people off general practice.
Negligence claims, which are the ones which cost huge amounts of money, because obviously when mistakes happen in medicine, it can be catastrophically expensive. Those premiums have gone dramatically up, and they're no longer sustainable, and they're proving a huge barrier to actually recruiting new GPs to come into the profession.
Overall, the number of GPs in Wales has remained similar in the last few years, but with England set to introduce a similar scheme to pay for insurance, there have been warnings that this could lead to a brain drain here. The Welsh Government's announcement means that the schemes on both sides of the border will now begin at the same time.
The state-backed scheme is designed to make sure that we can reduce the spiralling costs of indemnity insurance for GPs. And that's a really big problem. It costs more to be a GP, to do your job now, than several years in the past. And that costs me that some GPs don't want to stay in the profession or choose to work in different parts of the country or in different countries altogether. So resolving the cost of insurance is really important, both for GPs, but also for the services that they provide in every single community up and down the country.
The Welsh Government will now pay indemnity insurance not just for the GPs themselves, but for nurses, physiotherapists, occupational therapists and others employed to work in surgeries.
Now, it's popular with the royal family and it sells for thousands of pounds at auctions. Welsh gold is scarce and valuable. But now, panning for the precious metal in a Gwynedd River is being investigated by police with concerns that it's damaging the environment. Rhiannon Wilkins reports.
Beneath the glistening waters of Afon Wen lies hidden treasure. People have been panning for gold in Dolgellau for years, but very little is ever found. Police are now considering whether the practice is illegal in the area because rivers and wildlife are protected by law from anything that damages them.
You're disturbing the suspended solids in the river, and that causes a pollution into the water and releases the suspended solids in the river basement and causes problem for the fish and life, insect life and things like that in the river.
Welsh gold is popular with the royal family. Meghan Markle is expected to wear a wedding ring made from it when she ties the knot with Prince Harry this weekend. And in the heart of Dolgellau, Scott's Jewellers has seen increasing interest in the rare precious metal.
It has a greater value than world gold. In other words, gold that comes from America, Australia, and so on, because there's only a small area where it can come from. And initially it was highlighted with the royal family, and all this contributes to the high price.
But its popularity comes at a high price for the environment too. Over the next few weeks, North Wales Police and Natural Resources Wales will monitor the area to protect it from those searching for the elusive gold.
Well, time for tonight's sport now, and Claire is here. Claire, over to
Lucy, thank you very much. Hello, good evening. Well, the fallout from Swansea City's relegation has begun, with fans calling for change and the American owners admitting mistakes have been made. The Swans were officially relegated yesterday after that defeat against Stoke. The result brought down the curtain down on what's been a miserable season.
Tears and frustration from players and fans as life in the Premier League came to an end. Many of the players unlikely to be part of the setup when they step out as a Championship side next season. Ki Sung-young is the first player to leave in the wake of relegation. The 29-year-old took to social media to say it had been a privilege, but he was really frustrated and disappointed at their relegation. One former Swans midfielder says the club now need to take stock.
It's a huge time for the club now, not only with relegation, but you see a couple of the stalwarts within the squad, club legends in Leon Britton, Angel Rangel, they're leaving as well. I don't think they would bounce straight back up, especially when you throw in the mix that maybe Fabianski, Mawson, these guys will leave. A lot of rebuilding needs to happen. What Swansea need to make sure is that they don't turn into a Sunderland, but things need to happen, new players need to come in.
Swansea have been the architects of their own downfall, yesterday's defeat summing up their poor form. And many fans have directed their hostilities towards the chairman, Hugh Jenkins, and the club's two American majority shareholders, all three of whom were absent for yesterday's final game. One former vice president was reflective today. He says it's important the owners recognise what the problems are and try to unite with the fans.
Maybe going to the Championship might give us a chance to regroup, to rethink what we are as a club, where the owners and the supporters trust and the fans actually stand in that relationship. How you put that together, it's going to be hard work. But maybe they've realised that if they don't get that relationship right, the club's not going anywhere, well, except down.
Life in the Championship is far removed from the riches of the Premier League, but the blow is softened by parachute payments. The Swans can expect money over the next 3 years, providing they don't come back up. It's around 40 million in year one, but it drops to 15 by year 3. And fans today were not confident about bouncing straight back up.
I don't think we'll do it first time off because there's a hell of a lot of good sides in that division, and like I said, we've got to rebuild, really.
Some of the signings we made, well, they've been poor, but we haven't reinvested what we had.
We need to regroup, go back to the way we were, get back to being a footballing club, being back to communicating with the community like we used to.
The owners have promised change, and supporters are hoping that once the hurt and anger subsides, Swansea City can rediscover its sense of identity and get back in the top flight.
Well, very contrasting scenes in Cardiff yesterday, where thousands lined the route to celebrate Cardiff City's promotion. Boss Neil Warnock has confirmed he sat down with his players to talk about their futures. Speaking after the open top bus parade, he said he'd already discussed budgets, transfers and new contracts. It's been confirmed that Wales will continue to play all home competitive matches at the Cardiff City Stadium. It comes as the Principality Stadium is expected to be announced as the venue for a friendly against Spain in October. Cardiff Blues flanker Sam Warburton says he was on the edge of his seat, watching his teammates fight back and win the Challenge Cup. The 29-year-old, who's been out injured, says being champions is the perfect springboard for the club for next season. Gareth Anscombe's penalty sealed the win as they beat Gloucester by a single point.
When they got the penalty, I barely could watch, but if I was playing, then you feel quite composed in those situations. But yeah, you just sort of strip it all back and you watch the game as a fan again, and it's nail-biting stuff. It's really nice for that group of players and staff to have gone through that and had a win. So all that hard work, at least you can see that it pays off. So it's a fantastic achievement for the group and perfect springboard for us to go into next season's Champions Cup.
Now, he was known as the Newport Rocky. Back in the 1980s, David Bomber Pearce won Welsh and British heavyweight titles. Well, 18 years after his death, a statue in his memory will soon be unveiled in his home city. And it's prompted calls for more of our sporting heroes to be honoured, as Jordan Davis reports.
A sneak peek as the lid is lifted off the box. A life-size bronze David Bomber Pearce. The euphoria on his face after a hard-fought win, captured forever.
For me, it's going to be a tremendously emotional moment when that sculpture goes into the ground.
Laurie Dizongramel is the France-based sculptor behind the statue.
When I looked at all the pictures of David Bomber Pearce and looked at that winning moment of his when he's holding his belt aloft, it shows the sportsmanship, it shows the win, it shows the guy.
Pearce has done it in the dying seconds of the 9th round. Nevermead has been stopped by David Bimbo Pearce as the new British heavyweight champion.
Bimbo, another nickname, at the top of his game, beating Swansea's Neville Mead.
The brothers of Pearce and his manager Billy McCarthy and Father Wally Pearce all are congratulating the new champion.
And like always, he did it for Newport.
Bird up my mind right. My father trained me so hard. I have never ever trained so hard in all my life. And I really wanted it bad for my father, for my new manager, and also for Newport and myself.
He was dubbed the Newport Rocky because, as his nephew Luke, an RAF officer and former Welsh Guard, explains, he never took a backward step.
He fought all comers, he'd fight anybody. And I think he had that Rocky story. I mean, because he came from Newport and to fight for the Welsh, the British and the European heavyweight title, you know, is a massive achievement, considering that boxing was, you know, predominantly in London in those days and surrounded around Frank Bruno. What he achieved, it was massive, and he put Newport on the map, and I'm very proud of him.
Well, this is a genuine, well-matched heavyweight fight between Pearce of Newport and Rodriguez of Arosa in Spain.
Luke says his uncle was revered in France when he fought for the European title in Limoges after spending the night on a park bench, as he didn't have a hotel room booked. Pearce would pound the streets of Pill training. His ability and humility won him fans.
And what a scrap it's been.
Considered one of the most exciting boxers of the 80s, one of Wales's greatest current boxing trainers, Tony Borg, believes Pearce could have competed on the world stage now. Such was his ability.
We always just look at the Americans, or if we're done in Wales, you're looking at the London fighters. If you're in London, you're looking at the American fighters. We don't realise what talent we've got on our doorstep, and we don't recognise what's on our doorstep until it's gone.
But Pearce is the man who gets the plaudits.
David Bomber Pearce, an unsung hero. Made of steel, he'll now live forever in bronze.
Jordan Davis reporting there. Well, there'll be a statue of Derek one day. He's escaped to the garden for tonight's forecast. Derek, where are you?
Hi Claire, welcome to Dyffryn Gardens in the Vale of Glamorgan. Absolutely beautiful here this evening. A clear blue sky, lots of colourful flowers as you can see, and behind me the wisteria on the house has just come into bloom and is likely to be in flower for the next week or two. Now, it was a pretty cold start this morning and there was a frost in places. And that's a bit of a problem for gardeners. Frost not unusual at this time of year, but it can affect some tender young plants. Now at this time of year we can see a big rise and fall in temperature with a clear sky and light winds. Take Bala this morning at 6 o'clock. The temperature there was around freezing, but by 4 o'clock this afternoon, the thermometer had rocketed up to a warm 20 Celsius with lots of strong May sunshine. And that's how we end the day, fine and sunny. Overnight, it will continue dry and clear for many of us, but some low clouds is expected in parts of the north and west, together with some mist and some sea fog. Not quite as cold as it was last night, but chilly enough. Temperatures in parts of mid-Wales dipping as low as 4 Celsius, near a 7 Celsius in Bangor and Fishguard. Now the chart for tomorrow shows a ridge of high pressure over the UK, and that means more fine settled weather with a few exceptions. The cold front over Ireland, that will reach us on Wednesday. It won't bring much rain, but it will introduce cooler, fresher air. So tomorrow we start off with some low cloud mist and fog in places. Much of that will lift, but some parts of the north and west coast may stay grey and misty. Elsewhere, another fine day, plenty more sunshine. Highest temperatures in the southeast, 21, 22 Celsius, but cooler on the north and west coast with a gentle onshore breeze, about 14 or 15 Celsius in Llandudno. Now tomorrow evening and overnight, cloud will spread from the northwest, bringing a little rain, not amounting to much, but with the cloud, it will be a milder night, lows of 8 to 11 Celsius. On Wednesday, cloudy in the south and east in the morning, the odd spot of rain, some bright spells, the best of the sunshine in the north, and feeling cooler with a northeasterly breeze. High pressure will dominate for the rest of the week and into the weekend. That means more dry weather. So keep the watering can handy, Lucy, and enjoy these glorious flowers.
Oh, it looks beautiful there, Derek. Thank you so much. Tonight's main news again, and Palestinian officials say Israeli forces have shot dead more than 50 protesters in Gaza as the United States opened its new embassy in Jerusalem. More than 2,000 Palestinians are reported to have been injured. In Wales, there's a call for students to have the opportunity to report incidents of assault or violence to their universities. The National Union of Students has welcomed an online system put in place by Cardiff University, which has seen 101 students report incidents since it was launched last October. We'll have a quick update for you at 8, more after the BBC News at 10. For now, though, from all of us on the programme, thanks for your company and have a really good evening. Bye-bye.